All right, you all heard him. You all heard him. Did you get the fabulous introduction on video?
Yes, sir, I did.
My contract's up in a couple of months. He's the station manager. He already said everything I need to say to him. Hey, it's a hoot to be here. I've been asked about coming by this group over the years for a long time, and it finally worked out. I'm thrilled to be here and see Marilyn Bowler here, a great friend, a longtime friend, just one of the great people in your group and in Charlotte. She and her husband, Bob, great folk, and we missed her daughter, Vicki, so much at Hancock's Kids First Christmas party this year, where we would see Vicki every year, and that's just a loss, but it's great to see you. I appreciate being here, and I do thank you for the introduction trip. And Bob Freeman, who invited me to the club here a few months ago when Molly was speaking, so that I could sit in the audience and make faces and things and do that. Bob has invited Molly to be here today to return the favor, which I really appreciate. And Bob has been a great friend. You know, things just circle and circle and circle. Bob has been a great friend to Jim and Mary Louise Ramsey, who are here. I came into the orbit of their son back in 2004, 2005, Zach. He was one of 155 kids who were on a Make-A-Wish list at that time, when the daughter of Stuart Stout, who is here, and the sister of Holly, who is here, Hope, was asked by Make-A-Wish, what would you like as your wish? And you know, she said, well, how many kids are on your list? 155, and as you guys remember, I'm sure from 2003, 2004, that was Hope's wish, to grant all of those wishes. And through the celebration of Hope, through that effort, Zach became a Panthers PSL holder and a big Panther fan. I ended up meeting Zach, and all of these things just go around and around and around, and Bob Freeman at his catering company has been the venue for the Give Back with Zach tailgate party that we have every year with a bunch of Panthers, and raise money for Zach's fund, which Zach started with his own money to help families of kids battling cancer. And now, here, you know, Meg McElwain has been there to the Give Back with Zach, a great event, and now you're having a similar event in just a few weeks. Of course, it's basketball tailgating instead of football tailgating, but just, you know, so many, all of these connected circles, and I just want to acknowledge everybody who's here today, and it was a surprise to see so many friends. I didn't know Stuart and Holly were going to be here. We have the celebration of Hope, the March 4th with Hope Gala, coming up this Saturday night. It's going to be a blast. And then my friend Victoria Gonzalez is here. I'm mentioning Victoria's name. She's an immigration attorney, a guest here today. She's on my show a bunch, and she came up and said hello and said, whatever you do, don't tell anybody that you know me. Yeah, we say a little poke in the eye wherever it's deserved, make a little trouble for the people in charge, whoever's in charge. So in that spirit, I thought I would take a few minutes. This is the way we start our show every day. We say, or I say, you know what the news is. This is my news, and you are welcome to it. And we kind of rattle through a little bit of what's up and what's going on in the news of the day. And I thought I would do that here for a little bit, and then take a few questions. I have to say, I'm actually amazed that we're all here today, since the world was supposed to end Friday. It's the question! It's the question! It was supposed to end, the latest Sky is Falling, End of the World from GovCo. And here's just how end of the world it actually was. The House and Senate, when they couldn't come up with a deal, they just went home. Recess. That's how scary it was. That's how worried they really were. President Obama, he went skeet shooting after the sequester. But for Congress, good news, latest survey, approval rating holding steady. Bad news, holding at 15%. Most pornography-watching city in the country. This is a report from the website Pornhub. Which report, I'd like to state for the record, I got from Google News. But it was put out by the Pornhub people. This is a list, and it tops off with the city where people watch the most porn per capita. Number one porn watching city, Washington, D.C. Geniuses in Washington, not satisfied, just doing it to people. They like watching done to people. Gosh, no really shocking department. Study says Twitter is more politically polarized than the public at large. This is a new survey today. When political stuff is tweeted out on the great big worldwide Twitter, it's more partisanly polemic than the population overall. For sure. Twitter is just talk radio in 140 characters. That's all it is. The White House today is denouncing Ambassador Dennis Rodman's diplomatic mission to North Korea. Administration doesn't need anybody competing in the diplomacy genius department with John Kerry. Charlotte, I know you guys know this, Charlotte has been contacted by the U.S. Olympic Committee about bidding on the 2024 Summer Games. This is big. And dear God, please let this be true. Not for all the jobs or the visibility or the economic impact, but for me. This would be so much fun if we could have the Olympics here. Though I do wonder, how much of a credit line will Duke shareholders have to be stuck for to get the Olympics? I don't actually think Charlotte should go for the Olympics. Why stoop to the Olympics? Charlotte's world class. Now Charlotte's on the list. I say bring the Tour de France to Charlotte. Bring it here. The Olympics goes everywhere. Tour de Iditarod. I say bring the Iditarod here. Let's think big and fat. Carnival, Rio. Statue, everything. Bring it all. Forget the Olympics. No, hang on. Somebody must have slipped this in here before I left. Breaking news. This just in from the Larson News Network. State Senator Bob Ruccio has just filed a bill to move the Charlotte Government Center to Raleigh. We'll have details as they become available. Okay, now this is big, this is huge, and you may not have seen this one because this is a headline, true headline, from the Chicago Tribune. Michael Jordan buys $2.8 million home near Charlotte. Michael Jordan buys $2.8 million home near Charlotte. There's no NC in that headline. In the Chicago Tribune, there's no North Carolina in that headline, it's just Charlotte! Woo! Tim Newman should be thrilled by this. And I'm sure he is. I know that he is. That would have been some coincidence if I had just like randomly said Tim Newman would appreciate this and he wasn't out there. Not Tim Newman, but one of Charlotte's tourism officials is saying now that the city should be going for the NBA All-Star Game. This is out there now. And I know we had the All-Star Game here in another era, but now? Shouldn't they wait until such time as there might be at least one player from the Charlotte team in the All-Star Game before going for the All-Star Game again? And I kid Michael and the Bobcats, but there's no doubt they will be getting better soon. Michael Jordan says he's going to ask the city for a $144 million arena makeover to help him win some games as well. And plus, they're going to be the Hornets soon, and then no doubt they'll start winning some games. Business front, Harris Teeter is looking to sell itself, possibly. They have retained the Wall Street giant J.P. Morgan Chase to make a sale happen, and there was a little confusion at the first meeting apparently when the Teeter folk asked the Chase people if they had a VIC card. Police beat Salisbury, a guy known to locals as the Meat Man has been busted again for shoplifting meat from the Walmart. Nickname like that, you're actually glad to know the guy is a shoplifter. Fun for a lot of people, the governor of the state of North Carolina, Patrick McCrory, will be the Grand Marshal for Charlotte's St. Patrick's Day Parade this year. And wait a minute, this is just in from the Larson News Network. State Senator Bob Rucho has just filed a bill to move Charlotte's St. Patrick's Day Parade to Raleigh. People in the news, the Pope is now off in retirement. He got to keep the white cassock. He had to give up the famous red shoes, which had to be a bummer after fighting the wicked old witch so hard for him. Other people in the news, Essie Mae Washington Williams has died. She was 87. Essie Mae Thurmond Washington Williams, the late Senator Strom's biracial love child, the product of his affair with his family's black maid. Essie Mae met Strom when she was a young woman. She kept his secret for 6 decades while he ran for president of the Dixiecrat Party, served as senator, famously declared, "All the guns and bayonets in the Army couldn't force the Negro race into our swimming pools, our churches, and our homes." She kept her true identity and his secret to herself until after he died. And I remember having Essie Mae Thurmond Washington Williams on the show after Strom died, and when this news came out in 2005, I will never forget her. She never threw her father under the bus that he made her ride in the back of. And finally, the Navy says it's going to start random alcohol testing to crack down on the drunken sailors. Navy wants to cut down on the irresponsible use of alcohol, which we can't let them do. If the sailors stop getting drunk, who are we going to say our politicians spend like, after all? And that's my news, and you are welcome to it. And I thank you very much, and I'm happy to take a couple of questions on all that you might say. You can take your glasses off now. Yes, sir.
If you had to label yourself, if you had to, the extremes of a conservative or a liberal, or a Democrat or a Republican, how would you label yourself?
If I had to label myself as the extremes of a conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican, labels are for soup cans. The whole point of labeling anything is so that you don't have to understand what it is anymore. Once you label something, then you can just presume anything about it. People would say pretty much that I'm very actually conservative, and I would, to the point of probably libertarian. If anything, I'm pretty much libertarian today. Kind of changed over the 20 or 30 years, but that's where I am today, if I had to put a label on it. What else? Any other questions? Yes, sir?
How do you prepare for each day's work?
How do I prepare for each day's work? That is an interesting thought, actually, to prepare for each day's work. I'm going to give that some thought. No, listen, what I do in particular, it's always been this way for me. Much of the time I was in radio years ago was in mornings, early mornings. And a lot of what I do is the today, now, moment thing, whatever. And so I'm kind of off in different orbits at noon or 1 o'clock, but I'm in the radio station about 5:30. I come on at 9. And so you're just digesting news and websites and all that, but honestly a lot of it has to do with just living, being attentive, being in tune, and being in the moment of what's happening today and what's going on in the studio. And also, a big thing is just to have your window open a little bit, your sails at least part way up, so that when things happen and something blows into that studio or blows into your life that that it might catch your sales. That's when all the great things happen. You know, either the fun and crazy, or when, you know, one day you're driving to work and later than usual, in fact, just before you're going to go on the air, you flip open the newspaper and there's a picture of a 12-year-old girl in this jade bandana and what you find out is a flaming red wig, and she's pulling this little kitten up to her face like to kiss it, and she's looking at it pensively, kind of thing, and you find out that, you know, that's hoaxed out, and that's the morning you find out about that wish. And so by not having any ability to think a whole lot about that or prepare, the next thing you know, you're talking with a guy from Make-A-Wish, and then the next thing you know, you're talking with her dad, and then he's saying, well, I don't know what I'm talking to you for, you ought to talk with her. And so before you have time to prepare too much and talk yourself out of doing something you'd be scared to death of, you're having a conversation with this 12-year-old girl who proceeds to blow you right away and change your life. Yeah. So, yes, sir.
In your opinion, what is the most controversial subject you've ever had on your show?
Would you mind just asking that question again? Because for me to be asked, in my opinion, what is the most controversial, that's just so impressive and formal, it makes me feel like I must really be somebody. So just say that.
In your humble opinion.
Very nice. Most controversial? I don't know that I would even know how to answer. I mean, everything. We have fiery fun with everything, in part because I like to say on our show, agreement is not required. And so we go to some great lengths. I mean, obviously, I have pretty strong points of view on whatever I think, but we try really hard. I mean, that's why one of my favorite guests is Victoria Gonzalez, immigration attorney, and we don't share entirely the same thoughts on the matters of immigration reform, let's say. But Victoria's been in and on for years, and I rip and battle it out. So what you find is, if you really let all sides, or as many sides as you can, come into things, there's fire and sparks and fun all over the place. Obviously all the current political stuff, but we've debated for years about when is the essence of a band gone? When the Allman Brothers can call themselves the Allman Brothers because Greg Allman is still in it, but there's nobody from the original Marshall Tucker band still singing Marshall Tucker tunes, and we have wild fun with nonsense like that too. So it's a little bit of everything. Yes, and by the way, I don't want to be the guy that makes people late and then they have a terrible time. So somebody who knows what's going on here, let me know when we're taking the last question, okay? Then I don't have to worry about it. Yes, sir.
Who else in your business do you admire, and give us some insight as to why you admire them?
What do you consider my business to be? Before I answer that, well, there's a radio business, there's the advertising business, there's kind of TV.
Well, let's say a radio talk host, which I assume what you are.
Radio. Look, it would be easy for me to say, and obviously I would say, a lot of the long heritage of people who've preceded me at WBT. I do. And I say that in part because, you may not think so, but when you're talking about living out this way, and don't get me wrong, this is fun and I'm privileged to do it, but to last at it for a little while, you have to be doing a few things on a few fronts. Mike Royko, I'll tell you, you want to know somebody, I grew up in Chicago and I was a big reader and follower of Mike Royko, the political and local columnist in Chicago. And Royko used to say, anybody can outright me for a day. Anybody can outright me for a column, but I'm doing it 5 days a week, kind of thing, and over a period of time. So, people who keep putting out over a long period of time, a lot of people in the long heritage of BT. I love Robert D. Rayford. Bob's a great friend of mine. He's, been having fun with John Boy and Billy for a long time. Bob is a BT alum. He loves BT. He's been on every one of my motorcycle rides. So, there are a lot of people in-house. John Hancock in the building is, probably my best friend in the building, and he's been a great support from day one. John told me first day on the job, he said, welcome to Charlotte. John wasn't from Charlotte either, he's from Denver. And he said, welcome to Charlotte, here's what I know. If you open up your heart and yourself to people, they'll grab you and they'll love you and great things will happen. And so I've kind of tried to follow that. And when I've been able to do that, it's been a life-changing, incredible ride. Anybody else? Yeah.
How has your nonprofit work changed the way you do radio, if at all?
How has my nonprofit work changed the way that I do radio? By that, do you mean like the rides and things, or?
Yeah, that and anything else that you've been involved in.
Well, how has it changed? That is actually a really interesting question. It becomes a big part of it, but not in a very, I admit we do our ride. Okay, so that is an event, that has become a thing that we have to work on, and there's planning, and there's the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office, and all of that kind of thing. But how it's become a part is just by being there and being open. What has happened is these kids primarily come into your life, they grab you by the heart, and they just take you in directions. You know, we rarely see coming the days that are going to change our lives. And so one morning, you know, it's hope stout, and your life. And so therefore, who you are and parts of your show, it just changes. I don't know that I could say, I did this and now I do that. But it just changes everything about you. And you know, one day you meet Zach Ramsey and you're just overwhelmed, or Jordan Jemsick, or what have you. And it just changes everything about you. It does change your perception of your purpose a little bit. And so you think to an extent, if you can use, look, radio is commerce. We're a commercial broadcasting venture. My job, I try to be very upfront about it, is to assemble an audience to which advertisers want to make themselves known. That's what we do. That's what it's all about. That's the primary purpose. And we've succeeded at that over the 11 years. I'm glad for that. But along with that, you say, wow, if I'm able to use these 50,000 watts as a channel to be of use, to be of service in whatever way seems to be directed, that becomes kind of what it's all about. Or at least that's what is most in your heart and what you care about the most. Yeah.
Do you have any writers, or is it all your work from it?
You know, for better or worse, it's just me. So, yeah, no, I write or make up or ad lib or lie about whatever it is that I'm doing. Yes, sir. In the back.
Talk about your experience of being terminated and reinstated and all that.
Can I? Yeah, I can. Sure. Well, no. Listen, this was all in the papers, and I talked about it candidly on the air. That was, and as I said on the air, at that time, WBT and management, they said, you know, this is what we're doing. We want you to work in this way, but not that way. We're not going to extend a contract offer as we normally would. And I just didn't know if that was going to work for me. There are things about this business and the way that it works. I just didn't know if that would work for me. So I talked about it. I'll tell you what, management, Tripp and Rick Feinblatt, I will say this. They didn't yank me off the air that day. I was on the air the next day. They have always known and understood the nature of me and the show and what you do and how you do it. So I give them a lot of credit for that. There was a great response from the community, and so we got it worked out. And I'm happy to be there. I was pretty overwhelmed and kind of blown away by, like getting 1,000 emails in a couple hours. I wasn't, and more so than that, because that sounds kind of quantified. But boy, I'll tell you what. And you asked about how do things change who you are in your life and the show. The things that people would write and tell you, the things that people said, the depth of comment, or that people would take time to write and say certain things. I had no preparation for that whatsoever. It blew me away. And we've had a great last year. I would just say, in our, and Tripp and I, so we have the chuckles about this, but I'm just being candid. Sports, football coaches, entertainment, this is a part of the dance. This is a part of the reality. That's just a part of what goes on. And we know that. And over the course of the last year, I've never had higher ratings. Revenue's great. Things have been terrific. And, mostly we've had a lot of fun. So. Mr. Stout.
You have a really important question to ask you. I know you've been very involved with Logan and Zach and everything. When are you going to have Unknown Henson back on again? Maybe you ought to tell people about who Unknown Henson.
Unknown. Well, Unknown Henson's been around Charlotte for a long time. He played at one of our rides. He's been a great friend of our show. He's a piece of work. Unknown Henson. He's also a fantastic guitar player. Plays lead guitar for Billy Bob Thornton, Unknown Henson. He came out and played at our ride where Cassidy Hooper was out with us. Molly's been out at all of our rides, and she introduced us to Cassidy Hooper. That's a girl that was born with no eyes and no nose. Molly recently just did a great update on Cassidy Hooper, and you can catch that on their website. Unknown's wife just died a week or two ago, which is kind of a drag. She worked with him in his business, but yeah, we'd like to have him on the air or out to a ride again. One more. Anything else? Anyone else? Anyone? I don't think there is. I think we actually...
Keith, I'll just tell you, we appreciate you, community appreciates what you do. And I know you're really an unsung hero, but we do thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.